Kakadosh Boker Or. I wanted to share with you an incredible idea on this week's parasha. Do you know there's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, Mishnah Perek Daled, Mishnah Kaf Aleph. The Mishnah says, Rabbi Elazar Kapar Omer Akina ve'atava ve'akavod motzi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam. What does that mean exactly? We say that there's going to be three different things which takes a person out of this world. Kin'ah, jealousy, ta'ava, desires, ve'kavod, and respect. They take a person out of this world. But you should know it's not only from the world, olam haba, even from olam hazeh, even in this world, it takes him out of this world. Why? With midot ra'ot, with terrible midot. Do you know that the Avot HaKadoshim, we're talking about the Shifteka, they are the ones that they form and they structure Am Yisrael. And therefore, since they come and they form and they structure Am Yisrael, what happens is that it's something incredible. They had to go through all these three Averot. So let's start and let's understand what's going on. Kin'ah. The beginning of the parasha, it says, Vaikanu bo echav. The brothers were jealous of Yosef HaTzadik. Now, we're not talking about some jealousy. We're talking about jealousy in Ruchaniyut. They were jealous of a certain status that he had, of a spiritual status. He had something very strong spiritually. And therefore, he comes and he says, they thought that he wanted to be like the continuation of Yaakov. They thought that it wasn't going to be 12 Shifteka. They thought that you had Abraham had one child, Yitzchak and Ishmael. Ishmael was sent off, Yitzchak took over. Yitzchak had two children, Yaakov and Esav. Esav was sent off, Yaakov continued taking over. Yaakov has 12 children. They felt that Yosef was trying to do the same thing. That Yosef is going to be this main child, and all the rest are going to be sent off. And therefore, there was a jealousy. And even this jealousy, you should know, was so deep that they didn't even feel it themselves. It was such a deep jealousy, because if not, then how could they judge him? They judged him that they should kill him. If they have an interest, if they have something inside of them, they can't judge him. They know that. They're Dayanim. They know what's going on. So it was such a small, subtle jealousy, something so deep, that there was something there. There had to be something there. And then afterwards, Yosef HaTzadik comes, and he had to be Omed Ben Nisayon. What was the Nisayon? Ta'ava. How do we know Ta'ava? Right? Because obviously the wife of Potiphar, she was seducing him day in, day out. Day in, day out. The third one was by Yehuda. Yehuda was the Nisayon of Kavod. And therefore, by the way, do you realize it was in order? Kin'ah, Ta'ava, Kavod. Now, even though in the Torah, it's not written in that order, because in the Torah, it's written first, Vaikanu bo echav, and then it's written the story of the sale of Yosef, and then it's written the story of Yehuda. And only after Yehuda does it come and tell us the story of Yosef with the wife of Potiphar. And Mugdam Mu'achar b'Torah, we know that it was the other way around. And there was the Torah was continuing with Yehuda, so it continued with Yehuda, and then it went back to the story of Yosef. But really, Be'emet, the story of Yosef with the wife of Potiphar happened even before the story of Yehuda and Tamar. And what happened exactly? Yehuda was a question of kavod, because it says, Vayaker Yehuda, Vayomer tzadka mimeni. Yehuda had to come and he had to say, you know what? She's right. I'm wrong. It's a question of what? Of kavod. It wasn't a question of ta'ava, because we know that the malach came and basically forced him to go with her. And he told her, you have to go with her. And he went and he started asking her, are you an Ida? Are you this? Are you that? And he kept on going to make sure, you married, not married, this, that. Are you Jewish? No, I converted. Everything that you wanted. And then actually he went and he said it. But now if you think about it, why do you say it's a question of kavod? Imagine right now, he's going to come and he's going to say, who's the fool that's going to say, what type of a test is that? He's going to let them get killed? Tamar comes in and says, yeah, I'm pregnant, right? She has twins. She's pregnant. She's going to be burnt to the stake, right? And what? He's just going to keep quiet? Yeah, just burn her. Why? She committed adultery. And she's saying, yeah, but look, whoever this belongs to, he's the father. Yehuda's looking at it. What? He's just going to keep quiet? That's it? But you see from here that when it says, Yehuda, hakerna et borecha, when it says hakerna, recognize your creator. It was such a strong test. It was such a strong embarrassment for Yehuda that he was the greatest of the other brothers. He was the Av Betin. And he was the one that did such a thing. It was such an embarrassment that he had to go down from his kavod that it was the biggest test in the world. And Yaakov Avinu comes and he says, Yehuda ata yoducha achecha. Because of what you did, that you admitted to the truth. You went and you admitted the truth. You said what happened. You said the truth and you didn't conceal the truth. Now, if you think about it, Ribono Shalom, if you didn't conceal the truth, you're a murderer. You're this, you're that. No. It was such a strong test of kavod. All his honor, all his respect, everything was going down the drain. And what happened? He says, Yehuda ata yoducha achecha, you're going to become a king. Because the kings, they are the ones that have to take responsibility. And you took responsibility for your actions. You admitted to the truth and you admitted that you were wrong. What does that mean you were wrong? Tzadka mimeni. She was right. I'm wrong. You're right. Don't do anything to her. It's mimeni. It comes from me. And we know that the bat kol, the heavenly voice, came out and said, Tzadka, she's right. Mimeni yatzadavar. Hashem says it came from me. I purposely did it this way. And we're going to explain later on in the shiur, why did it have to be this way? Why does it have to be in such a way that Melech HaMashiach will have to come out from such a story? But he comes now, we say, so that Oziel actually comes and he says even more than that. Because Yehuda came and he admitted to the truth, we are called Yehudim. We are called Yehuda. Yehudim, Judas. Why? Because of this action, the Yehuda accepted the responsibility and he said, she's right and I'm wrong. That tells you who's a Jew. We are called Jews because of that. So if you actually think about it, we see from here that in order to build Klal Yisrael, they had to surpass very, very strong trials on these three things. Kin'ah, ta'ava, kavod. Jealousy, desires, lust, and what? And respect. And the shifteh ka, Yosef HaTzadik was the one of the desires, and he overpowered himself. Yehuda was the one of the kavod, and he overpowered himself. And the brothers at the beginning, even if they did fail in a certain sense, but then afterwards they made it up and they realized, and that was going to be the kinah, they fixed it. Later on, when Yosef came and he gave to Binyamin all the extras and they weren't jealous of him, so that's when he actually realized what was going on. Do we realize it wasn't only just by the Shevatim that this happened to, by the tribes? It also happened by the kings. But we're not talking about the kings that were son to son, meaning father to son. The kings which were appointed by the Nevi'im. The first three kings of Am Yisrael was going to be Shaul HaMelech. Shaul was appointed by Shemuel HaNavi. When he passed away, it was his son, right? Ishbosheth that became the king. But obviously we're not referring to him because that was father to son. The second one, which was appointed by a Navi, was also Shemuel HaNavi, that he appointed David HaMelech. But then when it comes and he passed it on to his son Shlomo, we're not talking about Shlomo because it was father to son. But Yerovam ben Nevat was the third one that was appointed by a Navi, and he was the king over Israel. That's when they split between Rehovam, the son of Shlomo, and Yerovam. That's when the Bnei Yisrael split. That you had the 2 tribes and the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes had their own king, and the 2 tribes had their own king, Yehuda. And the 10 tribes had Malchei Yisrael. So you had Malchei Yehuda, Malchei Yisrael. Malchei Yisrael was Yerovam ben Nevat. So let's start. Shaul HaMelech, he had the test of Kin'ah. Why? He was Nitkaneh b'David. Because Doeg Adomi said that Lacha is like David in every single place. Again, it wasn't just a jealousy of just stam that I'm jealous that he's got a nicer car. The jealousy was in something of ruchaniyut, something spiritual. And when we come and we speak about the spiritual height of what we're talking about, he comes and he says here, right, the Sfarim HaKadoshim come and say it was so small that Shaul HaMelech didn't even realize. He just said, David, you're a moreh b'malchut, you're rebelling against my kingdom. He didn't realize that he was jealous of such a high level that David had, that there was a jealousy there. David HaMelech was tested with what? With ta'ava. Again, remember, it's going in order. Kin'ah, jealousy, ta'ava, desire, lust, and kavod. David HaMelech was of ta'ava. He said, Bechoneni Hashem v'naseni, test me. That was the story of Bathsheba and Uriah Chiti. That was the nisayon of ta'ava. The third king was Yerovam ben Nevat. Yerovam ben Nevat was the ta'ava of kavod. And here the ta'ava of kavod is because Yerovam ben Nevat went and he said, 1 second, when it comes the year after Shemitah, the year after Shemitah, there's a mitzvah called Hechal. What is that mitzvah? They go into the Bet HaMikdash and the Malchei Yehuda, they sit down in the Azara and they read from the Sefer Torah. Malchei Yisrael are not going to be there. They're not allowed to sit down. They could go, but they can't sit down. So what kavod is going to be done? So what did he do? He put Avodah Zarah outside of the Bet HaMikdash, and then he went after the honor. He wanted the honor. Even towards the end of his life, if you remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he told him that listen, you know what? Be chozer b'tshuva, and then you, right, and Ben Yishai are going to come and they're going to walk with me in Gan Eden. He went and he asked Hashem, who's first? Is it going to be me or Ben Yishai or David HaMelech? And then he answered Ben Yishai. Why? At the beginning, he said, you and then Ben Yishai, you're first. But the second that he wanted to hear it and he was running after kavod, the kavod runs away from you. So then Hashem switched it. And Hashem said, no, sorry, he's first, you're second. Then he went and he said, you know what? So I don't want it. If I'm not going to get that kavod of being first, I don't want it. Now, technically, he would have had that kavod, but he asked because he was looking for it so much, and then he lost it. So what happened? So what happened is that's it. He gave up everything. He sold everything that he had for nothing. He lost everything because of what was going on. So the rabbis come, right? And the rabbis come and they say something incredible. You see that these three people, right? They came and they had the exact same kin'ah, kin'ah, ta'ava, and kavod were also in the three kings. These gimel nisyonot, if you actually pay attention, they actually are in the life of every single human being at different stages. The first stage is when we're children, until we grow up to become teenagers. When we're children to grow up to teenagers, we have jealousy. We don't have true lust or desires because it's very pure. You see little children, they could play boys and girls, opposite genders. They don't have that. There's nothing there. It's pure, right? And they're not of kavod. But what do they have? They have this kin'ah. They have this jealousy type of a concept that they want that, why does he get it? It's not fair. I want it. When they grow up already to the teenager age, and it's already when the midlife, what happens? All of a sudden now it switches. That the main desire, right, in a human being becomes the ta'ava, the desires of lust, right, and of other things. That is in the middle of a person's life. Again, it doesn't mean that it's only that, because a person will always have a ta'ava of kavod throughout his entire life, a ta'ava of kina the entire life, all of them. But which one of these three plays a more crucial role in the human being's life? And that's why it said it specifically in this order: kin'ah, ta'ava, kavod. When the ta'ava already starts to cease, when a person becomes older and they don't have that anymore, their ta'ava already dies down. They don't have the same thing that they're running after, as if to say the lust and the desires anymore, right? They hardly even taste. So the food, and even in the desires of relations, or everything changes. So now what are they looking for? That they have their kavod. They're looking that they respect them, that these are, yashish nichbad, zikenim. I'm older, you have to listen to me, right? Because of who I am, and this and that. That's where the kavod comes, and it actually fits in. The Gaon in the Mishnah, right? In the Mishnah Mavot, he actually says that these three things are actually what happened by Bilam Rasha. And the opposite three are what happened with Avraham Avinu. Bilam Rasha, it says, what happens with the Talmidim of Bilam Rasha? Ain Ra'ah. What is Ain Ra'ah? The evil eye. What is the evil eye? Ruach Gevoah, a haughtiness, and Nefesh Chava. He comes and he says like this: Ain Ra'ah is kinah, jealousy. He says, why? He can never come and try to flatter another person. He'll never give a good word to another person. So what happens? So he does this. Ruach Gevoah. What is Ruach Gevoah? Kavod. What does it mean, kavod? He comes and he says, right, this is talking about respect. Just like Bilam says, Ki me'en Hashem letiti la'aloch imachem. So what do we learn? Rucho Gevoah. Nefesh Rechava is ta'ava. Nefesh Rechava is going to be ta'ava, right? So what does that mean now? He comes and he says that's a Nefesh Rechava, that his Nefesh is all out there. Gevoah is the, right? He comes and he says, Ruach Gevoah is the kavod, right? He says, and then you have the Nefesh Rechava. So he comes and he says, just like Bilam Rasha said, Hashem doesn't want me to go with you. Why? He was being haughty. And Nefesh Chava is Tava, right? As we already know. So he comes and he says, so the Mishnah is saying, what is the difference between Avraham Avinu? The exact opposite. That he had the exact opposite. He had an Ayin Tova, a good eye. He had Ruach Nemucha, Nefesh Shefala. Why? He says, the Talmidav of Avraham Avinu, they eat in this world and in the next world. Bilam Rasha, they lose everything. So the Mashiach Don Rav Dov Yafe, he came and he said an incredible thing. It's important to put, right, this dictum in every single house, in every single yeshiva. And he says it's worth millions. Every single human being has bechira. Every human being has a choice. He could serve and he could live in this year 70 years in Gan Eden of Midot Tovot, or he could be serving Hashem in 70 years of Gehinam, right, with Midot Ra'ot. It all depends on you. What does that mean exactly? And listen to this, because this is something incredible. There's no Gehinam which is worse on this world than a person that is living with bad midot. And there's no greater Gan Eden than a person that he has good midot. Haman had everything. Haman Rasha, right? Remember, he had children, 208 children. He had money. He had kavod. He had everybody. He had everything. Every single child had everything that they needed. He was able to live in a Gan Eden, but what happened? He was living in Gehinam with midot ra'ot. Meaning in this world, there was already Gehinam. He wasn't able to benefit. He wasn't able to enjoy. The Talmidim of Avraham Avinu was the exact opposite. It could be that they have nothing, but they're reaping because they have good midot. They have everything that they need in this world, even if they have nothing in this world, because they're living in a world of midot tovot. So what does that mean exactly now? Gan Eden of midot tovot. So let's explain. On Erev Chanukah is going to be the Azkara, the Yortzeit, the Nachala of Rav Aaron Leib Steinman. Rav Aaron Leib Steinman was a big Rosh Yeshiva. We know that he passed away at whatever, 104, 108, whatever it is, 106. When this person came and he passed away, right? If you looked at him anytime, he always had a big, huge smile on his face. Now, if you think about it, what did he have in this world? I went to visit him. He had a bed that was like this. That's where he used to sleep, but he used to learn. When he was already at the age of 100, he agreed to get one of these fancy chairs, right? Like one of these chairs. You know what he did? What he did was he got like a little banquito, right? A little tiny, how do you call that? A little, that you stand up on it, a stool. And he put, right, that on the top of the stool, you had a little bit of a padding. And he put the two legs against the wall on his bed. And then he would come and he would relax on the padding of this stool. That's what he got. That was his good, nice chair, right, that he got. Imagine. But there was nobody in this world that was happier than Rav Aaron Leib Steinman. Why? Because his entire life he lived with such good midot that you think that he's going to leave this world? There was no kin'ah to leave this world. There was no ta'ava, there was no kavod. So a person like that, he's always going to be there. Do you know Rav Aaron Leib Steinman? This is another one, another dictum that I think everyone should actually say. Rav Aaron Leib Steinman said, Nar hayiti vegam zakanti. That's what we say in Birkat Hamazon. I was young and now I became old. But he says, Velo ra'iti mevater mafsid. I never once in my life saw that somebody that comes and is mevater, selkea, right? He just lets go, as if like nothing happened. Somebody calls you a name, somebody did something wrong to you, whatever it is. I never once in my life saw somebody that he went and he forgoed, let bygones be bygones. And what happened? And what that he lost? He only gains. Kol ha'chayim viter uviter uviter. He says the entire life you have to come and you have to be mvater. The entire life you just have to forgo. And somebody that's going to be mvater, you're living in Gan Eden of midot, right? You're living in Gan Eden, and that's what we're saying. See, come and he says the Brisker Rav, right, once went and he said, did you ever realize children are always happy? Look at children. They're always, okay, so once in a while they get into a little argument, they'll be sad. But you look at children, they're generally always happy. Why is it that adults are not happy? So you're going to answer them, listen, they don't have a mortgage. They don't have tuition to pay. They don't have this. They don't have that. So you're going to say a lot of things. Children don't have worries. They get everything that they need. What do you want? So said the Brisker Rav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the human being that he should be happy. He didn't create the human being to be sad. But you know what happens? Midot Ra'ot get involved. And when the Midot Ra'ot get involved, it brings that a person gets depressed. A person starts with kin'ah, ta'ava, kavod. And once he gets that, he becomes living in a world of Gehinam with Midot Ra'ot. And therefore the Gehinam, that's what he himself dug. He dug this Gehinam for himself. And he's living in this Gehinam actively now when he's living with such a thing. What's the proof? He says, when you come and you see that people that are mevugarim, that are older, and they're living in Gan Eden. Why? They have everything that they need. They don't need anything. Do you know that they used to say on the Chavetz Chaim, right? They used to say that he passed away at the age of 95. The Chazon Ish came and he said that he had a Kabbalah, that the Chavetz Chaim was minimum 10 years older than that. and his grandchildren, meaning his children, right? He says, right? It's a grandchild of the Chavetz Chaim said that really Be'emet it was probably even 10 years more than that. So he probably passed away at around 108, which means that the picture that we have of him nowadays, not the fake picture, because remember, the picture that we have, the majority of the times, it's not the real one. The real picture of the Chavetz Chaim, they have a little tiny video of the Chavetz Chaim, right? That was that picture and that, he was around at the time, around 84 to 94. Again, 84, which means 94, even more. Look at the person. The person is not living in this world. If you think about it, what's going on? The reason why is because he's living in Gan Eden of Midot Tovot in this world. And therefore, he doesn't leave this world. He doesn't leave this world. He just continues going and going and going and going. Why? Because of the way that he lives, the way of the life that he lives. And therefore, he says that's the concept of somebody that comes and he's living with Midot Tovot. The ikar of the avodah of a human being is to work upon themselves, to be a part of doing Midot Tovot. This person is not, he comes, he's always going to have a good eye to somebody else. He's going to be happy. And the Midot Raot is the exact opposite. So therefore, when you come and you ask yourselves, what's going on exactly? We have an incredible yesod. Whenever we're talking about the Midot Tovot, you can live upon the Midot Tovot. This week's parasha started with the three concepts. Kin'ah, ta'ava, kavod. Now I'm going to switch to the second part of the shiur and listen to this. This is something incredible. So I want you guys to listen, right, very, very carefully. Okay, and it's going to start as follows. We're talking about Rachel Imenu. And when Rachel Imenu passed away, right, which we know when she passes away, obviously everybody was very, very sad. And she was buried in Bethlehem. Yeah, Bethlehem. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he remembers Rachel. And he opens up her womb. She becomes pregnant and she has a child. What is that child's name? Asaf Elohim et Cherpati. He's going to come and he's going to gather together all my embarrassment. And therefore she called him Yosef, right? And saying Hashem should give her also another child. So therefore Yosef comes from two different meanings. To add on, meaning to add on another child afterwards. Plus, Hashem is going to gather, le'esof, to gather together. And therefore when she had Yosef, Yaakov comes and he says, let me go. Why am I going to go exactly? Right? We know that there's Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. There's two Mashiachs, ben David and ben Yosef. Right? It's actually hinted when we say it's na'ari me'afar kumi, right? Awaken yourself up from the afar, right? Kumi, get up, livshi bigdeh, come and get yourself dressed, tifateh chami, with the splendor of your nation. Al yad ben Yishai bet alachmi, through the hands of ben Yishai bet alachmi, korvai el nafshi ge'ala, you're going to bring closer geula. Here the kavanah is on the two Mashiachs. Mashiach David ben Yishai and Mashiach ben Yosef. Yosef had a nisayon. What was the test of Yosef? The lechem. Yeah, lechem. Why? The bread. It says, Iren lov yochal lachem. Call him, and we're going to give him to eat bread. What is the bread there? The bread there is to get married. The woman is called the bread, right? She makes the bread in the house, right? It says, comes Yosef HaTzadik, and he tells the wife of Potiphar, the master gave me everything except for the lechem asher hu ochel, except for the bread that he eats. It's not talking about the physical bread that he's eating. It's talking about that his wife that he eats. It's talking about the wife that he comes and he takes. And therefore it comes and he says, right, that Yosef HaTzadik protected himself from Midat HaYesod. What is the Midat? The Brit Milah, the Brit Kodesh. This he took from his mother Rachel Imenu. Because it was such a Kiddusha, because she came and she controlled her ta'ava, her desire, when her father came and switched her. And now she was losing out on her desire, her ta'ava, to be married to Yaakov Avinu. And she thought she would never be married to Yaakov Avinu again. So just like she came and she controlled her desire, and therefore she gave what it is, the power to her son, which we're going to speak about in a few minutes, right? That he was going to be able to control his ta'ava, his desire, and not go with the wife of Potiphar. She came and she suffered terrible, right? Terrible embarrassment that she wasn't the one that was getting married. He went and he put Lavan. Lavan came and he put Leah instead of her. But what happened was she came and he says, Asaf Elohim et Cherpati. Yosef is going to come right? And Yosef is going to fix that. But that was the chirpah. And therefore we come and we find two different things. Tamar didn't want to come and to be Vayesh. She didn't want to come and to embarrass Yehuda. And therefore she accepted upon herself the embarrassment, only not to embarrass her friend. She was going to die. And a death knowing that everyone's going to know that she was a zonah. And she didn't care. But she didn't want to embarrass Yehuda. What was the midah keneged midah? Tamar was inherited because of this, the greatest kavod in the world. She accepted the greatest embarrassment in the world and she didn't want to embarrass someone else. What is the greatest kavod in this world? David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. David HaMelech is going to come from Tamar. The king, the Melech HaMashiach, is going to come from Tamar. Netzach Netzachim, eternity. So to Rachel Imenu, she accepted this embarrassment. And Kadosh Baruch Hu took her cherpata, took her embarrassment. She was zocheh to also one of the greatest kavods in the world, Mashiach ben Yosef, right? Which is going to be Midat Yesod Olam, which the world needs Mashiach ben Yosef. If Mashiach ben Yosef doesn't come, Mashiach ben David does not come. Mashiach ben David only comes after Mashiach ben Yosef was able to come and to do something. Do you know that even David HaMelech, in order to kill the Amalekim, he needed people from Menashe to come and help him. And that's when he knew that since the people are Menashe and Ephraim come from Yosef, he knew he was going to win the war against Amalekim. Because you always need a Mashiach ben Yosef. That's Bet Talachmi. Talachmi is the lechem. Right? That is the talking about. So therefore he comes and he says, because we see that Chaim Nitzchiyim is talking about the Busha. And it's something actually incredible that they say as follows. Do you know, listen to this. Listen to this Yisod. It's something very, very important. We say anybody that embarrasses their friend, they don't get Ola Chelek L'Olam Haba. They don't get a portion in the world to come. Why? Because the red goes away, meaning a person's face is naturally red because of the color of the blood inside. The blood goes away and his face becomes white. When a person becomes white as a ghost, it means that he was embarrassed, right? And therefore the blood left. So it's ki'ilu that he died. When a person comes and they accept upon themselves, right, this embarrassment, it's ki'ilu they died. And since it's ki'ilu they died, they're reborn. They're born again. Once they die, all of that decrees that were against them is annulled. And now when they're born again, they're born with a new mazal, that maybe now they could have children. And that's why the remez is midat adin. The sunka, the red, is midat adin, justice, and the white is midat chesed, kindness. White is purity. And therefore it's hinting to us that it's annulling the midat adin and coming now midat rachamim. And therefore she said, Asaf Elokim et cherpati. Hashem saw that when I was embarrassed, and now I came and I gave over my husband to Leah and I didn't embarrass her, now I'm going to have children. And now we understand the famous segula. You remember there's a famous segula that if somebody comes and he needs children, and this happened with Reb Chaim Kanievsky and many others, they used to go to them, they used to tell them, listen, Rabbi, they need children. You know what they told them? Go look for somebody that they're embarrassing them in public, right? And then ask for them a beracha. Why? Because when they're coming and they're getting a beracha from such a person, the person was just annulled. And if you're that person, then you're embarrassed. You just died and you're reborn. Now you're reborn with a complete new mazal, and now you could have children. And now Rachel Imenu is coming and saying, the only zechut why I had children was because I was embarrassed. And because I accepted my embarrassment, and that's why. But not only does she get that she was able to have children, she gets Melech HaMashiach. She gets Mashiach ben Yosef. It's not Mashiach ben David, but that was Tamar, that she did the exact same thing. And now we understand why Rachel Imenu was buried where? In Bet Lechem. To teach us of the Kiddusha of the Lechem. The Kiddusha that she accepted upon herself, this Ta'ava, because we know that a woman is always jealous of her friend. When a person has two wives, he used to be able to control them a lot better. Why? Because each one was jealous of the other one. She knew if I don't behave, he's going to go to the other one. And a woman is jealous of the thigh of her friend. And therefore, here he comes and he says that a woman would never want to put a co-wife, another wife in the house with her. But he comes and he says, so what happened is that all of a sudden when she came and she said, Asaf Elokim cherpati, Now we understand exactly what happened. Shekilu died. And now what happens is now she's going to be born and she's able to have a child. And she's going to be buried in Bethlehem because it was this same yesod that Yosef continued later on. Everything that happened to Tamar happened to Yosef. What happened? Tamar was suspected about adultery, just like Yosef was suspected about adultery. So what was the reward? The reward was that, again, Tamar has from her children Mashiach ben David, and Yosef has Mashiach ben Yosef. So to Yosef, he also was embarrassed by suspicions. Not just like from the wife of Potiphar, so too David Elmaleh was also embarrassed by many suspicions. From Doega to me, Achitophel, at the beginning they came and they said that he came from Pasul, that he wasn't a kosher person because he came from Ammon Moab. And then afterwards that he had 4 different pgams. What was the 4 different pgams? Lot and the daughters. Remember, Ammon and Moab, they come from Lot and his daughters, right? Lot was with his daughters. So that was one defect. Yudan Tamar, another defect. The third one, Boaz and Ruth, was another defect. And Yishai and the father of David, right? The wife of Yishai, the father of David, each one of them. Meaning, do you realize, right, that, and we're going to explain exactly what's going to happen later on. Do you realize that Melech HaMashiach, everything that happened over there was with a very weird scenario, right? It was very interesting. Why? So they actually say the Mashiach has to come be'esech hadat. And this is the pshat of esech hadat. Mashiach has to come without us even realizing that it's going to come. How does that happen? Is that what's going on exactly? So let's try to explain. When we come and we say Mashiach, if Mashiach is going to come in a normal way, the Satan would come and mimikatreg too much, too strong. So what happens? So therefore, purposely, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that the Melech Mashiach is going to come from relationships that you always look at it and you say, what's going on over here? Ribono Shel Olam, this is where he's coming from. Lot with his own daughters? That's incest. What's going on? But they were doing it l'shem shamayim. They thought there were no more men in the world. And therefore, they had 100% of pure thoughts in their minds. And therefore, that's fine. Yudan Tamar. Yudan Tamar, again, he was told to do it. The malach comes and he says, go with her. He starts asking her 101 questions. She says that she's pure. She's this, she's that. Okay, fine. He does it. But again, it was Yachshvel Zonah. The third one, Boaz and Ruth. Do you know that Boaz, he died the next day after the wedding? Imagine right now you have a person that he's one of the Gedolei Hador. He gets married to Ruth, that at the time was a questionable marriage because, again, it wasn't that clear of Ammoni and Ammonite and Moab and Moavit, meaning that you prohibit all of them or do you only permit the women from those nations? And all of a sudden, the next day he dies. What are you going to say? You know why he died? Well, obviously. That's what you're going to say. Yishai, the father of David Elmaleh, he wanted to purify his children. How does he purify his children? He wanted to free his maidservant and live with her. And if he frees his maidservant and lives with her, the child is not really after him, but it is after him. And therefore, they're not going to have a problem anymore of Ammoni and Ammonite. That's what he wanted to do. Imagine what it was that this maidservant, that by nature, she would love it. Imagine right now you have a maidservant that the master is trying to go after her. She would love it. Yeah? She would love it. She doesn't do it. You know what she does? HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts in her mind and she tells Yishai's wife. Now he's separated from his wife, right? And she tells the wife, by the way, you should know this is what your husband wants to do. So go in and you're me. And that's what happened. All of a sudden the wife is pregnant. His own children wanted to kill her. His own children, Yishai's children, wanted to kill their mother because they thought that she committed adultery. And Yishai comes and he tells them, don't. They said, why not? They said, because if you kill her, people are going to say that you guys are also mamzerim. And therefore, don't kill her. So they went and they said, okay, fine, they're not going to kill her. David Elmaleh was thought to be a mamzer. Perek Samachtet and Tehillim. Muzar hayiti le'echai v'nochri livnei imi. I was thought to be a stranger to my brothers. I was thought to be muzar, strange. I was thought to be a stranger to everybody. He was thought to be a mamzer for 28 years of his life. When Shemuel HaNavi comes to anoint a king of the children of Ben Yishai, he tells Yishai, no, bring me all your children. 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x. There's no king here. I thought there was supposed to be a king here. So he asks Yishai, by the way, you don't have any more children? It's true. I have one. He's over there with the sheep. Yeah, that's David. Why didn't he bring him? You know why he didn't bring him? He didn't bring him because he thought he was a mamzer. He thought it was, he didn't understand what's going on. It wasn't even my child. They bring David and they say, this is Melech HaMashiach. This is the one. He's the anointed one. And that's the time when it says, Ema Banim Semecha. That now she's going to be the happiest person because she realized now after 28 years, they realized the validity of who was David HaMelech. And he became the king. But think about it. Do you know the embarrassments of what it is for 28 years being thought that he's a mamzer? Think about it. It's the majority of a person's life. He lived until 70. Ribono shel olam. 28 years he was thought to be a mamzer. But again, here you have it. And then the rabbis come and they say, so from here, right, what happened was there was an incredible story, right? And what happened? When you're suspected of something and then you receive that and you accept it, greatness is going to come out of you. He says there was an incredible story that happened with the Rabbi Apta, the Ohev Yisrael Me'apta, in the city of Zitamim. That they went to the Almanah of Oziel Wolf, and they went and they asked him. What happened was, right, is that everyone went and they said Shalom Alechem to a person, right? And they went and they were looking for a katzav. A katzav is like a butcher. And they went, and what happened was, is that they went straight. He was looking for a shidduch. They went straight to this butcher. They took him to the thing, and they made a shidduch. And they were all, wow. Think about it. This big rabbi, he should get married his child to a big rabbi, to a child of it. Here, he took a simple butcher. What was going on? And listen to this. They went to the Rabbanit, and she went and she answered, I already knew that from this butcher, there was going to come out an incredible story from him. Because 20 years ago around, there was a huge screamings in the city. And my husband took his head out of the window, and he saw that terrible people were coming and running after this katzav, and they were embarrassing him publicly because they went and they took out a psak betin, but it was all fabricated. And they went and they said that he did something terrible and this and that. And really, Be'emet, he did nothing. And he kept quiet. And he accepted his embarrassment. The Rebbe went and he said, I see with Ruach HaKodesh that he didn't do anything wrong. And therefore, what's midah keneged midah, since he just had now, right now, a bizayon, the biggest embarrassment of his life, and he accepted it, it came out in Bedin Shel Mala that he's going to get one of the biggest kavods in the world, and therefore his child had a shidduch with one of the Gdolei Ador. And that's exactly what happened. So you see from here that when a person comes and they get embarrassed, they actually later on, they're going to have one of the biggest kavods in the world. And all the koach of Yosef coming from Mashiach comes because of his mother, Rachel. And that's why he comes and he says, right, that we know that Mashiach comes be'esech hadat. Why does it come be'esech hadat? Because that's what happened with Rachel and with Tamar. Tamar thought, I'm not going to have any child anymore with Yehuda. And finally, what happened? She went with Yehuda and she had a child. She didn't even think it was coming. Rachel thought that she wasn't going to have a child from Yaakov because she thought that's it. Once he got married to Leah, that's it. There's nothing else happening. So what happened is that all of a sudden it came with the Hesech Hadat. What exactly is this Hesech Hadat? We know that Leah knew already that there were going to be 12 children, Shifteka. And when there were going to be 12 children, she was pregnant with the boy, which was going to be Yosef. And Rachel was pregnant with Dinah, with the girl. She went and she judged with herself and she prayed in order that they should switch. Now we know that had to be a huge miracle because the Gemara says that you could only pray until 40 days. After 40 days, it's tfilat shav. It's in vain because it's too much of a miracle. She changed it. And the children actually switched. Yosef went to Rachel and Dinah went to Leah. Why did Leah do such a thing? You know why Leah did such a thing? Because she realized that Yosef was going to come and he had to be the Mashiach, and Yosef had to come from him. And the only power that was going to be able to be given over to him had to come through Rachel, that she did the exact same thing. Since Rachel controlled her ta'ava, so therefore it's only fitting that she's the one that's going to have a child that will be able to control his ta'ava, which is Yosef. And that's why Mashiach ben Yosef and Yosef comes directly from him. And that's why I just think that it's incredible that when we're talking about all these things, right, it makes sense, right? Everything that she was buried in Bethlehem, right? Because it was the Midat Yesod, and that's why it's called Al Yad Ben Yishai Bet Lachmi, because the two Mashiachs, they come from the Lechem. Tamar, because she was suspected of adultery, and Rachel. The Bet Lachmi, not only just because David Ben Yishai comes from the Bet Lachmi, right, from where he came from. It's because they both come from Rachel and Tamar. Both of them had all the Mashiachs are going to come from Rachel and Tamar because they were able to come and to control their ta'ava. And that's why it has to come Besech Hadat, right? We know, why did it come from Besech Hadat? We know that even by Yehuda and Tamar, they didn't know this halacha of Moavi, Moavit, and all these things. And therefore Yosef Tzaddik also. And that's why it has to come in such a fashion that they don't even know, right, exactly what's coming on. So therefore the rabbis come and they say, right, that this is the essence of the Kiddusha of what it is, Rachel Imenu and our parasha. So if we're just going to sum it up, it actually comes out something incredible. Everything that happened to Yosef happened with Tamar, right? The two Mashiachs are going to come from both of them. It has to come Besech Hadat because of both of them. Rachel gave her son the power to overcome this. And again, there are three averot in this world. Kin'ah, ta'ava, kavod. Every single person goes through every single one of these things. And it's not only every single person. Am Yisrael needed to overcome this in order to have control, in order to become the best of the best. Bezrat Hashem, I just hope that we're able to understand this and realize how much we have to overcome, whether it's our Yetzer Haras, whether it's whichever stage of life that we are, whether it's going to be in the Ta'ava, the Kavod, the Kin'ah, that we should live our entire lives full, right? As we already said, that we're living the entire life. Like what Rav Aaron Leib Shteyman said, I didn't see anybody that ever lost out by being mivater, or like Rav Don Segel comes and he says that you have the choice how to live your life. You could live in the life of a Gan Eden in this world, as long as you have the midot tovot. And that in essence is what we're supposed to be doing in this world. Shabbat Shalom.